Can you hear me well? Yes? Okay, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to welcome you all to Madrid to the Polarizing EU Symposium, addressing the rise of radicalization in digital spaces. We are honored to be joined by members of our network from over 3 countries, as well as representatives of the COS Association and the European Parliament. Your commitment and your presence today are what make this a truly pan-European project. I'm especially delighted to see some young people here with us, young faces. Thanks to our collaboration with the Media Festival Association. Your participation is essential. And we cannot, because I think that we cannot talk about young people without including you in the conversation. So thank you very much for being here. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to other esteemed guests who will join us in this 2 days journey of exploration. Together, we will examine the urgent challenge of radicalization in the digital spaces, a topic that concerns us all regardless of our background or area of expertise. Let me also express our gratitude to our supporting partners, the Madrid Center for Interdisciplinary European Studies, and above all, our university, whose support and hospitality have made this event possible. I would like also to take a moment before our first session to acknowledge the people who have been working tirelessly behind the scenes to organize this symposium. So the Media Festival team, especially Alejandro Del Amo and Olga Llorente, Belén Figueiredo, Fati, our Scientific Communication Coordinator, Gonzalo Velasco, our Young Researcher Coordinator, Paula Garcia from MASIES, and of course, our invaluable course manager, Kafa Saed. Okay, so our objectives are clear for these 2 days. To foster academic reflection and research in active dialogue with media organizations, which is a new direction for us following earlier events focused on NGOs. To consolidate and energize our network as we reach the midpoint of our project, ensuring forward momentum grounded in fresh ideas and insights. And crucially, to directly involve young people in our work. Their voices and perspectives are vital to understanding and addressing the dynamics of polarization and radicalization in the digital age. So looking at the program, you'll see that we have a rich agenda ahead of us. Today begins with a public debate on polarization and media in Europe, followed by workshops, keynote sessions exploring hybrid media and the polarization of civil society. Tomorrow, we'll turn to the growing gender divide in the digital spaces and strategies to enhance the impact and visibility of our work. We will wrap up before concluding this symposium with a session on ways to build a more inclusive European media landscape. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to open our first session, a public debate moderated by Mónica Prado, Director of Antena 3 Digital News. Thank you, Mónica, for your generosity and flexibility, particularly in light of the challenging news environment between the election of a new pope and last week's blackout. Your support has been instrumental in making this debate possible. And thank you all for your presence and commitment to this important cause. So, Mónica, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria, for your introduction. And yes, we are surviving to all the breaking news that we have daily nowadays. So welcome, everybody, to our opening debate. Let's talk youth, polarization, and media in Europe. It's a pleasure to be here at a time when the media, the role of the media, in shaping our societies more than ever under the spotlight. As Maria said, I'm Mónica Prado. I'm a journalist, chief digital editor in Antena 3, a TV in Spain, and I'll be moderating this conversation that feels more than ever urgent, complex, and deeply relevant. Let me start with one striking fact. According to the latest digital news report by Reuters Institute, more than half of young Europeans under 35 get their news from social media, not from traditional media, not from news websites, but from influencers, friends and creators on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. This shift has changed everything. The way we consume news, the way we form our opinions, and the way we talk or do not talk to each other. At the same time, Europe is facing a growing political and cultural polarization. And the question we ask ourselves today is, what role do the media, especially television and social media platforms, play in this divide? Are they bridges or are they barriers? We will explore this today with our fantastic guest from different parts of the media and institutional landscape in Europe. And let's get started. First, from Berlin, we have Manuela Kasper-Claridge, editor-in-chief of Deutsche Welle, Germany's international broadcaster. Under her direction, Deutsche Welle has embraced innovation while staying committed to independent journalism and democratic values. She has led innovative initiatives like COVID-19 Special, climate-focused global ideas, both internationally awarded among other international recognitions. Few people are better placed to talk about the balance between reach, responsibility, and truth in today's fragmented media landscape. Welcome, and thank you for being here, Manuela.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for speaking English.
Thank you. Second, joining us from Brussels, we have Gonzalo Velasco Monasterio, public opinion and data analyst at the European Parliament. He works with numbers, but his focus is deeply human, tracking how citizens, especially young Europeans, engage with politics, how they form opinions, and how polarization grows across digital platforms. He brings the evidence behind the motion. This is important. And he has recently led the EU Post-Electoral Survey 2024, which I think will clarify many things. And third, representing one of the voice of the next generation is Leticia Pérez Camino, Director General of Actuality. Actuality is one of the most followed news accounts on TikTok in Spain and one of the very few in Europe to make politics go viral. With millions, I have to say 4.6 million followers, her team breaks down complex stories into snappy, smart, and highly shareable content. So Leticia is at the front line of how Gen Z consumes news today. So thank you all for being here, and let's dive in with a video.
Acaba de informar un amigo que está en los buzos estos de los flash que el parking de Bonaire es un completo cementerio, o sea, los buzos salen y no quieren ni volver a entrar.
Esto hay que contarlo, que lo del parque de Bonaire es un cementerio, un auténtico cementerio, al menos 200 niños.
Ayer se asomaron algunos efectivos de la policía, porque están desbordados, al parking. Datos oficiales, no dan cifras, pero datos oficiales. Hay 700 tickets de entrada, pero no de salida. 700 muertos en un punto, en un centro comercial. Eso no hay Cristo que lo tape.
Como saben ustedes, en relación a este centro comercial se difundió un bulo afirmando que en el interior había muchos cadáveres. No era cierto.
Ropa que habéis donado concretamente al municipio de Alfafar a un vertedero, todo ropa en buen estado.
Se trata de ropa dañada por la humedad y las lluvias y que por tanto se ha tenido que desechar.
Vamos, que en tiempo real esto con ropa donada por todos los españoles, amigos míos, que están llevando al vertedero a quemarse.
La ropa ha sido descartada por los equipos sanitarios profesionales. Desmiente el ayuntamiento de Alfafar.
Pero sin móviles, sin electricidad.
Acaba de llegar un camión.
Porque te lo contamos sobre el terreno.
De desaparecidos.
El borde del barranco.
Por el agua hace
que los vecinos.
Porque verificamos todos los datos.
Una imagen
terrible. Estamos intentando llegar.
Porque contrastamos todas las fuentes.
La realidad
es el barranco del Polle.
Porque informamos con responsabilidad.
Tengo la teoría de que esto es por culpa de los chemtrails. Cambio climático, bla, 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 bla. No, siempre durante estas fechas hay tormentas, pero no tan grandes.
Verifica la fuente, asegúrate de que viene de fuentes confiables, oficiales o expertas.
Voy a demostrar que la Dana de Valencia es todo artificial. Aquí se da un patrón de radiación, hay unas rayas que parece que las lanzan pues de por aquí. Fíjate qué tronchos de radiación. Radiando a la atmósfera. Esto entra dentro del proyecto HARP.
Valora el tono. Una fuente confiable nunca transmite odio o ira. Los manipuladores siempre jugarán con tus emociones.
Se trata de un SMS que llega al móvil, pero por favor no pinchen en este enlace porque no es ninguna aplicación. Se trata de un SMS falso, de un intento de estafa para colarse en su móvil.
Ojo, no piques. La EMET no está enviando este tipo de mensajes con un enlace.
29 de octubre.
Poblaciones afectadas.
Y en la zona cero, en Paiporta.
Son centenares de camiones.
8.500 militares.
Las tareas de limpieza de la Dana.
Toneladas de cañas.
Porque te lo contamos sobre el terreno.
Porque verificamos todos los datos.
Porque contrastamos las fuentes.
Porque hablamos con los expertos.
Porque informamos con responsabilidad.
And I'm sure you've lived in your position too, different big news event. I'm sure
yes.
Gonzalo has a lot to say, so I'll give the floor first to Manuela and let's start the conversation.
Yes, fake news is of course a problem for us as an established media. What is even more difficult for us is that people use our moderators and our look and pretend that it's from DW, which is a trustworthy media outlet, and then have false claims. So that is a huge problem for us every day. We have like 10 or 20, also in Spanish, by the way, because we have also a Spanish outlet. And that is a problem, but we invest a lot into fact-checking. We train our colleagues, and we train them also with AI tools. Because AI tools are, of course, they have a good side and a bad side. The good side, they can help the journalists to identify what's a false source, for example. And we try to train our audiences. We explain every step how we came to the conclusion that this claim is false. And I think that's very important, transparency, and that's what we noticed with the young audience, that they like the transparency, that they like, why do you come to this conclusion? Aha, these are the steps you have taken. Okay, now I understand why you say this is false. I think that's very important to be transparent, particularly with the young audience, and also to engage into dialogue with the audience. You know, they have many questions. Particularly on Insta and on TikTok, of course, and we try to answer these questions as much as is possible. And what we notice is that political content nowadays is working very well on TikTok. That's a surprise for us, to be honest. So very, how can I say, serious news is working very well if it has the right form of storytelling, and then young people engage with it.
Mm-hmm. So let's go to the figures, because this kind of fake news have a lot of to do with radicalization, polarization, these conspiracy theories, questioning the authorities, as we saw in this example. Gonzalo, what are the figures behind this scenario? You know.
So, well, first of all, there is a marvelous team in the European Parliament dedicated to counter disinformation. So there is a reputational team, and they have a lot of work. For example, with one of the MEPs that were shown in the video that is spreading disinformation within the House, saying, for example, one very common fake news is that showing a video of the hemicycle empty or with very few MEPs that are working on a particular topic, and saying that nobody works there, that MEPs never go to work, and so on and so forth. So they have a lot of work with that. Then my role is rather to work on public opinion. So what we do is Eurobarometer surveys, and we use this data to, to first as a public service. So we publish this data and we make it available. And by the way, I see the room full of students, so I really encourage you to use our data because it's there and it's available, so the microdata. And particularly relevant for these topics, are the post-electoral survey, the youth survey, and the news and media survey, where we can see or we can research a little bit where does the polarization come from. For example, you were mentioning AI. We have already 57% of young Europeans using AI every day, which is, in my view, a huge share of youth that is using these tools, and something that is growing. But we have also a media consumption and social media consumption gap, which is also a trigger for polarization. Why? Because youth is consuming news or political or social content in a different way. First of all, their first sources of news is social media. For the rest of the population, it's still TV. And then they consume social media in a different way. For example, Instagram, TikTok are the most used platforms among youth, while for older citizens, they are more on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and so on and so forth. And then within youth, we also see a gender gap. So they not only differ from the overall population in their news and media consumption, but also within youth, we see a gender gap. As you know, this is translated then into political behavior. So this is translated then, as we saw in Germany, that the first party among male youth was AfD, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm speaking under your control, and the main party among female youth was Die Linke. Coming back to the media consumption, we see that first news source for women, for young women, is social media. For young male, still TV. But then when we come down to the when we go down to the social media, to any social media channel, we see that the consumption is totally different. So for young female, we see that that they consume news through Instagram, through TikTok, and while young male go directly to podcasts platforms or to YouTube as a main source of news. So here we see that from a different media consumption and social media consumption, we see a different voting behavior.
Leticia, tell us about how your public, your Gen Z audience deals with this environment.
Yeah, I think it's we work daily with TikTok and Instagram, and we try to translate complex information into a more simple information for them, because I think that it's a clear necessity to bring closer information to young people. I think we see that they are not consuming traditional media, but we still need to make sure that young people are informed. So I think that it's crucial that media, like Actuality, that they are not only, I would say, because I think that we put in the pot of social media everything in there, and I think that we need to differentiate between media like us, that we are official media giving official information, versus other kind of influencer or content creators that give information without verification. So it's not that the information that it's coming by or through social media is not good or relevant or is not true, is that we need to educate them to go to the sources where they can be informed and they can find truth information. I think that's one of the key messages, is that it's not that everything in social media is wrong and they don't need to be informed by social media. Is how and where do they need to find that information, and or from who? I mean, all traditional media are moving to social media. They have their own social channels where they can find that information, and we need to educate them where to find this information.
I think there's something that maybe Gonzalo could help us with the data he manages, but I think there's a big issue on the lack of trust on traditional media and official sources, not only, but most of it on the younger generations. Do you have any figures on that? What's going on? What's polarization have to do with it?
So what we see in our surveys, and it's very good because we have very long trends in the Eurobarometer in order to monitor trust, is that in a way, right now trust towards the EU institution is on the rise, even among youth. But this is not the case for national parliaments, national politicians, and so on and so forth. So on the one hand, we are seeing that the EU is kind of the solution to the latest crisis. So we are monitoring high levels of trust. Is seen as the right governance level to address the current global challenges. But of course, on the contrary, national politicians, national or traditional media, and national institutions, the trust that we find there is very low, and especially among youth. Then I also wanted to mention that youth is aware of this information. So one of our latest surveys, my beloved youth survey that we published a few months ago, showed that more than 3/4 of young Europeans already know that saw this information in the last 7 days. So they are aware, and they also feel confident on recognizing this information. So they are aware, but they are exposed, very highly exposed, especially through social media, to this information.
And Manuela, I don't know if that happens this often in Germany, but every day in Spain we see posts saying, "This you will not read on the media."
Yes, actually we have, if I may say so, very conservative or even right-wing media who do this a lot, and they have their audience, not necessarily a young audience as far as I know, but they're gaining track, yes, and we are so-called mainstream media, which is not a nice term because we don't want to be mainstream media. We want to be media for the people, and we want to reach the users. So we, as a fairly big media organization with 3,000 employees, we have to be very flexible. We have to be there where our audience is. We have to explain things in the way, and that's what you were saying, that they understand what it's about. Like today, there will be the new German chancellor that will be voted for, or will be elected. And so we explain how does it work and so on, but even in a funny way, in a nice, entertaining way, but they get the information, and I think that's important. But of course, we have so many different channels on YouTube. For example, you will find 20-minute segments explaining all the thing about the chancellor and so on for people who want a deep dive. And what we noticed also, and this I have to say is a mostly male audience, they go to YouTube and want to know more about politics and the background about politics. You don't find so many women there, unfortunately. We try to change our storytelling also, that we gain more women also with political topics, but it's not easy. But the young audience, they are interested. They want to know, they want to understand, they want to explain, but not from a high point, so I tell you now how these things work kind of thing. No. You know, you have to have a kind of eye level with them.
Yeah. be attractive, no?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
always been
and
a
we
role
have
of
to
the
have
media
our
too,
own
no?
influencers, people who they trust, and they don't have to be young necessarily, that's what we noticed, but they have to be trustworthy. Because if you have an 80-year-old person explaining how the German, what to know about the German chancellor can be interesting, but sometimes even young people don't think, why is this 18-year-old telling me that he can't have an idea, yeah? So it depends. Influencers can be of all ages.
Leticia, have you have that experience on your TikTok and Instagram accounts? Politics are attractive to younger generations?
I mean, I would say that yes, they are attractive. I mean, we have 6 million followers, so they are interested. It's one of the first things that we say, that most of the people say that young people, they are not interested in news, media, politics. It's not true. I mean, 6 million people are following us because they are interested in. The difference is, how do you tell the story, that you need to be in their channels, that you need to be attractive for them. It's how you tell the story, because it's true that they are interested in that. This is one of the first things that we want to, because we've been hearing since years that Gen Z, they are like completely out of everything. They are not interested in news, media, whatever, and it's not true. I mean, that's why it's a big responsibility to make sure that we bring them the information. How do they want it? And I think one other key, I would say, or a key facts of actuality success is that we are in their channels. I mean, while they are searching, I don't know, other kind of information, other kind of content, we are there to give the information in a very easy way that they can engage, that they can follow. It's putting the information, I mean, directly where they are. That's one of the key, I mean, you say it, and the other thing that I think it's crucial is to engage with them. I mean, it's not about the age, that also I think in part is the age, because I mean, this is life, and you engage with people that are more closer than you sometimes, and it's true, but it's about engaging with them, and I think that's also crucial.
And in this scenario, I ask you three, what kind of polarization? Because they can be attracted, they can be there, they can read us, watch us, but the polarization scenario is growing in Spain and all over the place. And we see what's going on in the United States. Do you have any figures on that? This is emotional, ideological, a little bit of everything?
I think that everything goes in the end or everything results into affective polarization. So it goes beyond only ideological polarization, and it transforms in denying the political opponent in feelings, in values, in culture. So it's a cultural backlash as well. So it goes really beyond just disagreeing on the political field. I wanted to mention also here that sometimes in media and social media are becoming more and more, so to say, isolated, or more and more homogeneous intra-media or intra-social media, and different from each other. So they are catching just a part of in this case, youth that are very similar ideologically and culturally, and this is used by political parties and sometimes by institutions, because what do they want to do now when they are communicated? They want to target their audiences, and what is best to target an audience is to have a segmented already audience that we can find in social media, that we can find in traditional media already as well, because there's of course very big media channels that still have very different or broad audiences, but there are also very specialized. We see that in Spain, for example, with newspapers, no? That every newspaper has a very singular public or readers. So if you already have that potential segmented population on that specific traditional media influencer, you're going to use it as a political party. So this is a vicious circle that is creating more and more polarization. And there is where I think the role of the media or the role of an influencer, for example, or the political parties that are not profiting of this polarization they have to realize that they are actually creating more polarization, and they have to depolarize.
What's your experience, Manuela?
The problem is the more extreme you are, the better it works on social media. The more emotional you are. If I say, for example, now if I would post, say, on LinkedIn, I hate my job, that would definitely go viral. It doesn't have to be true, you know. And so we sometimes seem to be a bit boring in the way, because we don't cater so much to these extreme emotions. And that is a problem, because if you are boring, you don't gain so much traction. So you have to find the right balance. So you have to trigger positive emotions, and that's not easy. And we keep discussing that. We have 32 languages. We are like BBC World. And for example, one of our Arabic presenters, Jafar, he has 100 million views every month, only on social media. And he's an influencer, and he explains things and taboo topics for an Arabic young audience, like LGBTQ or the rights of women and so on. And with that, and in a way which is not, as I said, from the top, and on the same level, he's very successful. But he's not extremely emotional. He's near to your heart, if I can say so. And so you have to find the right balance. We also invited a critic from the Washington Post. They have a very successful TikTok channel, the Washington Post. They were some of the first movers, and they looked at our TikTok channels, and thank God for that. The judgment was quite positive. He said, I envy you for certain things you do. But of course, other things don't work so well. And the problem is all these bots, all the comments, the negative comments. And of course, we notice also from Russia and from Belarus and so on, very negative influence. And then somehow this gains traction, you know. So it's not easy for media. We have hundreds and hundreds of social media channels in all the languages. So it's very difficult also with community management and so on. But yeah, we try our best.
Yeah, it's a hard job, but it's a challenge for all of us. Yeah. We've learned too that international news are very attractive for younger generations, and we didn't expect that when we started on our social media.
Yes.
And you know, tough things, not just Trump's latest phrase of the day. So I wanted to ask Leticia how what feedback do you receive on this side from your audience?
We receive a lot of feedback. I mean, that's one of the main changes from traditional media, that you were not able to comment or respond or show your opinion, that now every single post that you post on your social media, you receive a lot of comments. And that's true. I mean, the reality that we see is that if you tell whatever news against Trump, people that it's against Trump will comment more and more. And if you say, and if you put another media that it's supporting Trump, whatever you said, people will go there like crazy. Also, what we see is that those media outlets that engage more with young people, because it's a fact that our engagement rate is near 10%, versus traditional media. So people feel that they are more like in their home, or they are more like, closer to this kind of media, that they are more like for young people, is where they express themselves more and more. Because the figures that we have is traditional media have like a 1% engagement rate, and we have like nearly 10. So people feel like more, like at home, and in a space where they can speak more and more. So of course we see it every day, and it's, as you said, it's hard, and we try to work with it, but it's part of the, I would say, is we see our politics creating this polarization. So it's what they see, debating very hard, and it's what they are learning from them.
Do you think we are giving the voice to the younger generations enough? In the media?
Not really. It's not sufficient. One has to admit that. We need more young voices so that the audience can relate more. It's not easy, yeah. People don't want necessarily their information from traditional journalists, because there was so much hate speech about traditional journalism, so that they don't trust well-educated journalists as much as they probably can, in my opinion. So we need to give young people more voices. What we did, for example, we were talking about political shows, where you have a political debate. And so we thought, how can we change this kind of typical structure? There are politicians sitting on a podium like we are sitting here, and there's the audience. And so I asked my young colleagues, please put in some proposals how we can change the setting. Do you have ideas? And what we came up with is politicians in the audience, and the audience is debating the topic. And that we did this about European topics, and that was so successful. We had in the audience from all European parties, we had politicians, and so, we never thought about this like that, and so on, about certain topics. So we just changed the scene, and so have different ideas, and then we gained a lot of traction with young people, of course, because also the politicians in the audience were mostly young politicians, I have to admit. Yeah?
If I may, I'm very happy that you mentioned that bottom-up approach, because this is something that we have been doing for some years already in the Parliament, with the Conference of the Future of Europe, for example, and especially now with the the European Youth Event that will takes place every 2 years, and that is the idea. That is the idea. So, like filling the hemicycle with young, with youth actually from all over Europe, and having MEPs just to listen to them and to debate with them at the same level. The challenge there is that so far we only get this very EU enthusiast youth, and not the rest. So that is the challenge, and that is what we are trying to reach now, to make a link with every kind of youth. So we have an ecosystem there in order to discuss different topics and to bring very different views, even people that are disaffected with the idea of the EU, or that are contrary to the EU, but that will be the aim, to bring these people there and have them debate with and at the same level of the MEPs and policymakers.
So let's talk about shared responsibilities. I agree with Manuela that I think we all have a part, politicians, media, the new social media too. What has worked on these ways we have tried to get closer to the younger audience and to fight against disinformation, fact-checking, media literacy? Has been it successful or not?
What we are working on is also constructive. That seems to be a bit abstract, but as we all know, news are, of course, not very positive, and we can't change the things. But still, at the same time, many things which are positive, where there are solutions, are happening in all over the world. And we are trying to emphasize this as well, like young people attending debates, or even in Gaza, people are struggling, trying things out and so on, as much as it is possible and so on. So we try to look also for constructive stories, and we train our colleagues also to have a different approach to a story, not just this negative approach, which of course after 2 seconds you say, oh no, I can't bear this, thank you, bye. Yeah. So tell more the human side, explain more, and tell also where things are working and where people are tackling problems. And we notice that with these kind of stories, people engage a lot more, much more. They come and say, oh, this is a great example. Oh, I want to do this as well. Oh, really, this is happening in Nigeria? I didn't know about that. Yeah, and so on. That's where you can get your water from and so on. Whatever, simple stories, they work as well. And as I said in the beginning, explain really why things are the way they are in a way that people can relate to.
And if I ask you about algorithms, because there is a huge responsibility that is not on our hand, what can we do in Europe?
We just have to be aware of them. That's it, and train our colleagues to be aware of them, look for trending topics, and see if we can address these topics in our way.
And about regulation, it's a big issue.
There, I'm not an expert, but I would say that disinformation literacy, so there is a big role there of media, but not only, political parties as well, and also professors in universities or teachers in high school, no, to teach on disinformation, to raise awareness among youth that this is that they will front disinformation every day. And they have to try to double check, and I think this is one of the key elements that would help. And also, as you were mentioning, focusing on more positive emotions, although sometimes polarization is built on positive emotions as well. So focusing on positive emotions that are not triggering polarization. This would be, in my view, the right way to put it. But yeah, I think disinformation literacy, it's one of the things that would work the best, especially with youth, because you have access to them. And then what I learned from colleagues working in the reputational team, so in the disinformation team of the European Parliament, is that sometimes, at least from an institutional perspective, it's better to not respond, to not answer to a fake news.
Yes.
Just leave it there.
Don't try to correct it.
Yes.
What do you think about this, Leticia?
No, I think one of the, as you said, I mean, teaching since they are very small, that the disinformation is there, and they need to learn they need to read more than one source, they need to go to official sources, because this happens with every single thing. I mean, about food is not only about political topics. I mean, there's disinformation about everything in social media, so they need to learn that they need to check, and they need to read few things and compare, and that's one of the key issues. I mean, from everywhere, from schools, from parents, from universities, everyone needs to teach, since they are very small, that they have more richer information to take their own decisions, and not just the first thing that they read, I don't know, that avocado is not good for yourself, and then you take it as true, and that's all. I mean, so I think it's a big effort from everyone to show to our kids or young people this part from everyone.
But do you think this is on our politicians' agenda, or they are taking advantage of this polarization and disinformation?
The politicians, you mean? or who's taking advantage?
Politicians. Our politicians.
Well, we see in Europe how it works, for example. We see in Germany with the right-wing or far-right party, AfD, they were very successful because they addressed their voters on social media channels in a very successful way. We see now in Romania, where the new presidential candidate, the one who in the first round of the vote gained most votes, he used social media in a very efficient way. We saw that in France as well. So politicians make use of it, but if they don't make use of it, they won't be successful. One has to admit that. So what politicians should learn, how to use it in the best sense. You know that you have a variety that you don't find in social media, just the right-wing extremes positions, but also other positions. And the traditional parties, at least in Germany or in other European countries, are a bit reluctant to that. Also in the UK you see that. That the traditional parties are using social media not in the most efficient way. So we have to kind of train our politicians, you know. Yeah, and I'm sure in the European Parliament you're aware of this, and also of the dangers. We sometimes don't know where the influence comes from. And in Romania it's quite likely it comes a lot from Russia.
Do you think there are successful media actions on this side, how to help not only younger generations, but to teach in school critical thinking, to learn how to be informed, not to believe anything you read on social media? On my side, Address Media Foundation is working on this with teachers, with the school, but it's a hard job. I don't know if you, on your side, have any successful experience?
Our colleagues, some of our colleagues go to schools, particularly the ones who are very successful on TikTok. They go to schools and do projects with them in schools. And want to hear the topics, also the young audience is interested. But what is funny, of course, the young audience, they know better how to deal with all these tools than often the journalists. One has to admit this as well. But it's a combination. For example, like 2 days ago, there was an information in Germany, young audience doesn't read anymore. And I don't think it's true. They just read here. They read books here, they listen to books and so on. It's not that they don't read anymore, they don't eat the print, you know? So you have to reach them, and I think in schools media literacy should be trained in a very good way, but we are not really doing this, unfortunately. We as a state, I mean, yeah.
Do you think our citizens perceive this and appreciate it? We're going through the right path?
I think so. At least we are making efforts on that regard. We have very similar initiatives in the European Parliament, so European schools going to the schools and raising awareness of this information. But I think you touched a very important point on training politicians. I think the only parties, that's at least what I see in social media, the only parties using social media, for example, TikTok or Instagram in the best way are the far right nowadays. Before it was not so much the case a few years ago, but now they are mastering the use of social media. So this means that we should train the rest of the parties, because if you just open TikTok now and you see how many followers does Vox have and compare it with the rest of the parties, they win by far, for sure. So there is a training there, and there is a training also not only on the use of social media, but on the responsible use of social media. But as I was mentioning before, for them it's the best to have already, it's the best targeting communication approach to just take an influencer that they know is followed by the target population they want to speak to, and just pay them a big amount of money, and they have their campaign. It's easier than pasting posters or buying media spaces in newspapers or traditional media, which are way more expensive. So this is boosting polarization.
Yeah, the problem is the politicians still look into the newspapers if there's a quote of them, but they don't look in the morning at TikTok. Yeah, but they probably should.
Yes, and now we're having also TikTokers or influencers that became politicians. And there is this case of the Cypriot one that is now an MEP of the European Parliament. So first being influencer, it's a very good way to become an elected member of the European Parliament or of any other parliament. Yeah, and of course the case of Romania now with Georgescu, that now is no longer able to run for the elections, but who was very successful. Even in the surveys, we were not seeing him coming, and his campaign was based on TikTok and allegedly Russian bots.
Yeah.
Well, we have a president of the United States that's mastering the social networks every day. What about the influencers? They want to be politicians, they want to be journalists. We saw in these examples, there were many influencers during the Dana floods in Valencia that use the situation, the darkness, the lack of information in real time, and use it to get clicks. How we deal with that? Leticia, for example.
It's complex because from one side, it's true that sometimes they want to get those clicks. On the other side, they just show their opinion, but their voice is so loud that impacts a lot of people. So sometimes they said, okay, I have it's my opinion and I can give it because it's my own opinion. And it's true. They are, it's people that they are not politics, they are not, so they can say whatever they want. But sometimes it's true that their voice is so loud that that makes this think that I would say that the effect it's much bigger than another media saying whatever. I don't think that all the influencers want to take advantage of the situation, because I don't think so. I think that a lot of them try to help, try to, for example, in the Dana, use their voice to support causes, to give information, how to, I don't know, give money, whatever. I mean, but sometimes we put all the influencers in the same box that they are doing the wrong things. So I think that we need to differentiate and not put everyone in the same box for everything, because I think that there were people trying to support and help and give good information, and there were others trying to get another kind of effects.
This is what happens also in the European Parliament. Sometimes this information comes from within the House and from MEPs that are spreading this information and that are actually influencers, as the one we saw in the first video. And this is a nightmare for colleagues working in reputation, working in this information, because it's their opinion. There is no so much legislation on that. There's nothing much you can do until things become huge. And here legislation, as always, is lagging behind. It's 10 years before where we are right now, especially in disinformation, in legislation concerning the use of social media, the spreading of fake news, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is a tough one.
I think transparency is also very important there, that you know where these influencers come from. There should be more information, because often it's a business model. You're absolutely right, there are all kinds of influencers, but often it's a business model. They need to gain traction to make more money. So one has to be aware of this. How am I financed as an influencer? And the good ones, they are transparent about that. I think that's important to know for the audience also, because you talk about legislation. That's what I would want to know about influencers, you know. Like for us, you can find out how Deutsche Welle is financed and so on, so on, so on. And I need to have this information about influencers as well. I think that's important. Yeah.
You were talking about transparency. What do you think about fact-checking? Do you think it's losing traction? We think that as a media, it's part of our mission, but do you think it's still as attractive and useful as it was? Sometimes I feel, talking to our own editors, TVD editors, they're kind of a little bored about spreading this on TV. We do it on website, on social platforms, but sometimes we get the feeling that it's not as sexy anymore.
We haven't noticed that. I've heard about that, but we haven't noticed that. We actually invest a lot in fact-checking. And as I said in the beginning, we try to be as transparent as possible to explain the steps. How do we come to this conclusion? I think that's important. And at the moment, it's not losing traction, at least with us, but it can be that this changes because some in the audience say, yeah, this typical mainstream media saying this is false and wrong. How do you dare?
You are the liars.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we have to be careful. But at the moment, it's doing its job in the best sense. Yeah, people are looking at that on the different channels, also on TV.
On the institutional side, you feel that this is important. You are supporting many initiatives in the European Parliament.
Yes, indeed. This is important. This is working. This is working better and better, and faster and faster. And it has to be transparent, and it has to be reactive. It has to be quick. So we are working on that, but as I said, sometimes it's better to just not react and leave the problem where it is when it's not so big. So yeah, Parliament, the Commission are investing on their own disinformation teams within the institution, but not only. They are financing other initiatives. Private sometimes, but sometimes we are just overloaded with information, and sometimes, and this is always the problem of the fact-checking, that if it comes a few hours later, the damage is done. So yeah.
We did a live fact-checking where there was a debate or a live stream with Elon Musk and Alice Weidel, and Alice Weidel is the candidate of the right-wing extreme party. And he really likes her, and Elon Musk is trying to influence Germany by supporting the AfD, the right-wing party. And we did live fact-checking, and that got so much traction. For example, Alice Weidel was saying that Adolf Hitler was a communist. And people believed that in the beginning. And so we did live fact-checking and so on, and said why he wasn't a communist, da-da-da-da-da-da. And so that was really important for the audience to understand, and the debate was still going on between the two. But otherwise, how if I'm sitting wherever and Alice Weidel is saying that, I probably think it's true. Adolf Hitler was a communist, So I think it's important fact-checking.
Yeah, and we have to do it in an attractive way. So
absolutely.
It is effective.
Yeah, and I think live fact-checking is also very interesting for debates and so, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult. You need many people doing that because politicians just put something out and it's very difficult. You need your time to check,
And how do you manage all these AI products that we receive every day, trying to, make our work harder every day? There is an earthquake, we have fake images running all over the place. How do you deal with that?
Trying to check the information, that's the reality. As you said, there's lots of information every day coming from everywhere, and we need to check and make sure that the information is true. It's the reality. That it's going to be more and more complex, as you said. It's evolving, so fast that this is going to happen every day. So we saw last week when the Pope died, all the videos. Whatever is happening, there are thousands of AI videos all over the world.
Continuous training of our journalists, that's so important. There was a time when as a journalist you learned your profession and that was about it, and no further training necessary, not so much. But nowadays, every day you have to learn how to deal with new tools and so on and so on. It's tough, and it's a different job than what it used to be, say, 20 years ago or so. So the journalists have to know many technical skills as well to be able to identify and so on.
Do you think AI will be helpful, a helpful tool for us, not only for the bad guys, but for the media?
Sure.
And the social media?
Sure. It has its good sides as well. It helps us. Also with tools identifying fake news, for example. But we as humans, we still have to make the judgment. We have to use the tools and so on, and being able to differentiate. So we can't totally rely on AI, and we should not, of course. But if you want to explain a difficult thing and you can use graphics, and AI makes a suggestion how to visualize the topics, why not? You know, that doesn't mean you take it 100%, but it gives you ideas. Why not?
What do you think about youth movements in this media democratic ecosystem? Are they playing a role? Are we seeing the role they're playing? What do you think? You work with many different youth movements.
Yeah, again, there I see the challenge of bringing youth movements that are a bit different from just youngsters that are very positive about in our case the EU, or they are very engaged with democracy or with any cause like ecological topics or gender equality or any other kind of topics, and bring in youth that are different, that are maybe not so much engaged, not or maybe disaffected to the system, and there is a challenge again because you see all these organizations that are very important and that are doing a great job, but this is again a very similar youth that have sometimes university studies. So this is a very particular group of youth, and we are sometimes lacking of including other kinds of youth. I wanted to mention just one to launch one figure that in my view is very positive, which is that 70% of youth feels confident on recognizing this information when they encounter it. So this, in my view, it's the result of teaching them on, well, first of all, that there is disinformation, there is fake news, that they shouldn't believe everything that is posted on social media, or that is even shared by mainstream media. And this is a very positive trend that we are monitoring, that people already know that fake news are there, that they have to double check themselves. For example, a very good example was the shortage of 1 week ago, electricity shortage in Spain. First news were that it was caused by Russia. It was an attack, that this was happening in many EU countries, so not only in Spain but in Italy, in Germany, everywhere in Europe, and it was very easy to see that this was not the case, and it was very easy to realize actually that it was like after half an hour. This was only in Spain, Portugal, and a few parts of southern France, and this experience, I think, make general population aware that there is fake news and that there is a political interest behind spreading fake news.
Is there any youth movement that could be an example of how to change things in any of your programs? That could be a good example for this debate.
Have to mention here Equipo Europa, because I see some familiar faces. No, this is a very good initiative, Spanish initiative of also teaching or trying to bring youth closer to the EU and to understand better the EU. But there are many European initiatives. Some of them are institutional. The European Solidarity Corps, all this experience that the EU finances and offers to youth people, Erasmus, that bring very different youngsters from different countries together, and this exercise of sharing, it's very important in order to build cohesion among youth coming from very different contexts. But at the same time, it's also a bit utopical to think that we are going to create the huge conversation, because some of the authors publishing papers or researching about this information, they tried already to say, well, if we bring a Democrat and a Republican together and we make them talk, we will depolarize, of course, but we cannot do this at the big scale. It's a bit utopical to just bring all citizens together and make them discuss. But of course, at a lower scale, or at a lower scale, this helps a lot. And I would say Erasmus and European Solidarity Groups, now the European Youth Event, are very good initiatives in order to build cohesion, counter disinformation, counter polarization. And there, in the European Youth Event, many of these associations, youth associations and initiatives are gathering together and are discussing. So this is a very a ecosystem where many positive ideas flourish.
I think Erasmus is a good example about the kind of constructive story I was mentioning earlier. Like, for example, if you see a story by a young student, I was an Erasmus student in, say, Finland. That's what I liked about Finland, and that's what I didn't like, and so on. And somehow you can relate with that. That doesn't mean you are in a totally a different country. And you had to accustom yourself. That's interesting. That's what the Finnish people do also. So these kind of stories, they work very well, and we need more of these stories. They are engaging, they are constructive, and they give me ideas, and for the audience it's important. Why should I care? Why should I care and watch this story? This you have to have in your mind always. And here why should I care about a student being in Finland from Erasmus? I could apply for Erasmus. I could be a student in a different country, and so on, yeah?
And so what we see in surveys regarding Erasmus, for example, is that from overall population, so all the population, the benefit of their country being a member of the EU is sometimes or most of the times an economic argument. So because my country is richer, or because I have more work opportunities. But for youth, is the fact that they can travel freely within Europe, is the fact that they can work in another country. And the EU has realized, the Commission has realized, and they are investing more and more in Erasmus, but also in other initiatives like this, because they not only bring people together, reduce polarization, but they also create European identity and European sense of belonging for youth. And this is if you want to see it in a very practical way, this is the voters of the future, and this is the citizens of the future. So,
yeah. Do you think maybe, Leticia, we have a lack of empathy with younger generations, mostly coming from politicians and from traditional media? So I found myself in a debate similar to this one, and at the end of the debate, a younger student, university student, told us that we didn't talk about the problems of housing, for example. We concentrate on other topics that we think maybe they are more relevant, but maybe they are not the most relevant for the younger.
Yeah, I think that's true, and that's why media outlets like us, I think that they are successful for them because we sometimes speak about the topics that they are relevant for them. I mean, we see when we talk about, like for example, housing is one of the contents that works best for them because they are interested, they want to know more, they want to understand what's going on, what are the opportunities. So I think that, yes, I mean, there's a lack of empathy and also there's a lack of initiatives like in Erasmus. It's known by everyone, but there are other initiatives that would be super interesting for them to know that they could find opportunities, and we don't tell it to them, and that's a reality because there is not so important, because there are other things on the table, and they need to know them because it will be so helpful for them that I think that we need to give that space also.
So there we have a challenge, and there is another topic I would like to raise, is the duality versus complexity versus simplification. No, we've talked a little bit about this. What do you think, Manuela? Because this can be tricky.
Well, I'm just faced with a complex issue because the German Chancellor hasn't been elected in the first round of the voting. Breaking news, my colleagues are just dealing with that. It just shows how complex things are, because we explained how things worked and so on, and they didn't work, of course. Now we have to explain again. Complexity, you just have to be aware that you can't explain everything. You know, things are so complex that to explain them with all their different points, it's not possible. So focus is important. Focus, what do you want to explain? What do you want to explain? Why Friedrich Merz is not a person many people like, for example? Do you want to focus on that? Or do you want to focus on the political election system? Whatever, but focus. Don't try to put everything in one thing. I think that's important. But complexity, it's difficult for our journalists nowadays. Things also in the US, there are so many layers, and you can't explain everything.
You mastered that, Leticia. What's the clue?
I mean, I would say that from one side, it's key to decomplex some information, especially to bring closer the information to young people. On the other side, we always say, if you want to go deeper, you need to go and to find information and look for it. It's just not, you don't need to keep only this 1 minute information. You of course need to go deeper. What we always try to do, at least in actuality, in every piece of video or every video that we create, is that the video itself, it's a full story. So we give you a little bit of context, we explain you the news, and then we give you some kind of conclusion. So we don't, so if you read or if you see that piece, you understand a little bit, having a little bit also of context. Because sometimes we go directly to the information that people is lost because they don't know where it's coming from, what was happened before. So they even if they try to understand, they don't understand where it's coming from. So that's one of the key things that we try to do, is not only simplify, but also trying to explain a little bit more the context to help them to understand. And also I would say that things that are complex can be more simple and also less technical. I think that's another key point for not only young people, but sometimes we say we can explain the same thing, but in an easier way so everyone can understand it without technical words, without just how you explain it to your friend or how would you explain it to me, and then I can understand it. And that's one of the things that we need to understand about new generations, that we need to simplify for them to understand.
Maybe not only for the younger generations. My mom, she's using Instagram all the time. Maybe we're not focusing there? What do you think?
You mean we focus too much on younger generation, not on...
No, I don't know. It's a question, no? Because we have...
We should focus on all generations, of course. On all generations, not just on young, middle age, whatever, old age, on all generations, and cater to their special needs on special channels, of course, and not just on special channels, on all channels, you know.
What I meant is maybe that we are thinking that the youngers are on the social networks and the olders are on TV.
Yeah,
and
that's
this
not
is true, but maybe not as true, because older people have a mobile too.
Here, if
and are connected.
Yeah, television in Germany, 60 plus. So not so many people are on television anymore, you know. So all the rest is obviously on social media more. And or television has to change so that it's engaging enough, and also other generations look at television. Yeah, we should focus on all generations, I think. Yeah.
Just one comment. We clearly saw since years ago that Actuality start as a project for Gen Z, and we have seen that the audience has the evolution of the audience is that we have more and more millennials, because everyone wants to see the information in their social media with videos in a simple way. I mean, so it's not only for Gen Z, it's something that we all, it's where we are going, all of us.
Here, if I may, what we are seeing in our surveys, and coming back to my beloved youth survey, is that youth is not only on social media. Youth is still on TV as well. So I have the data in front of me. There is 42% of youth, and this is the main source, that consume information on political and social issues from social media platforms. But there is a 39, so only 3 points below, of youth that is consuming this kind of information through TV still.
Information or shows?
Political and social information. So it's not all kind of information.
And does it vary from country to country, I guess?
Yeah, for sure. It does vary from country to country. Yes. But the thing here is that I still consider myself young enough to say this. We don't consume TV, for example, or radio in the same way. So we go directly to the program, to the news that we want to watch, and through the
smart
online,
TV,
the smart TV, the online, whatever, on our smartphone. So this is also a challenge, because we are not consuming TV as in the way our parents were. We are not just, before the whole family was watching the same TV channel and watching one program after the other, which brought them closer, because also programs at that time were not so much thought for one specific audience, but now they are. And now we watch them just through the, as you said, a smart TV or phone or online. Basically.
So you don't wait for the 8 o'clock news, you just watch it when you want to.
Yes, or you just go to this TV channel's website to watch your favorite TV show or your favorite, documentary, but you don't consume the rest of the content that is on that TV channel. So it's also a more, if you want, polarized way of consuming TV or radio.
But at the same time, when there is a big news event, live programs, news programs...
they work very well.
Yes.
Breaking news, then people go to TV. Absolutely. That's correct. They immediately turn their TV on. Yes.
So we
like
have
now.
Hope. I asked you a little bit on this, but we didn't come to any conclusion. What about regulation and responsibility in this fragmented media landscape, where ones have more red lines and obligations than others, sharing the same ecosystem?
I think regulation is important, and I think Europe is doing a good job there with the Digital Service Act and so on, and I think we need to be consistent on that, and we shouldn't loosen our regulation. I think that's very important. We are not like the US, and that's important. That's an advantage, in my opinion. Yeah.
One of the clues you mentioned before is transparency.
Yeah.
You know, who is posting what.
Exactly.
No? The lack of name under a post, is it a problem?
Yeah. Yeah, well, transparency, we all want to know Where does somebody come from? Why is he or she saying this, and so on? We want more information, and that's transparency. And we also need to admit when we make mistakes. That's also one of our rules. When we make a mistake, we transparently talk about it or mention it, say, sorry, we have to correct this, that was wrong because of this and this is the correct information. That's also, that helps with trustworthiness.
Does it work the same way on social platforms?
Yes, and also I think that, as you said, the transparency, and I think that people really trust on you when you say you were wrong and you need to correct the information. So you show that transparency and they even trust more on you. Like, okay, you are telling me now that that you made a mistake and now you can correct it. So you don't hide it. I think that increased the transparency and the trust on you.
Now we have some time for the audience to ask questions to this guest that are sharing their knowledge with us. Anyone wants to start?
Channel to make sure that we have different perspectives and we can kind of fact check on our own. My question is, do you think now that we are kind of the generation of being on a rush on the scroll, that we only have 10 seconds to get the information we want, do you think that's something that can really happen among the youth, or should we guarantee in other ways that we have real news among us? And then on the other hand, it's for Gonzalo. First of all, thank you so much for all the work you do in the Eurobarometer. I'm the first one to use it, as you know. But I have a question. I find kind of complicated sometimes to find conclusions on how the Spanish youth participates or the behaviors it has related to the EU, because sometimes most of the sample that we have for the European youth is unless 400 encuestados. I don't know how to say that.
Respondents.
Sorry?
Respondents.
Respondents. Yeah. So sometimes that doesn't allow us to get real conclusions, at least academically. So I wonder if there's a way to promote that number increases. And I don't want to end without saying thanks to Manuela, because it has been amazing. Also the breaking news that you shared with us. So thank you so much.
I'm not so happy about this news.
But you get us informed, so that's nice.
It's not fake news, right?
No, not fake, unfortunately. No.
Okay, then I will start. As you said, we live in a rush, and it's very difficult. I think that what we need to teach is that they are official traditional media or official media like Actuality, where you can see the information and it's truth, and that you don't need then go to other places to check the information. But if you see the information from whoever content creator or wherever in social media, then you need to differentiate who's who, and where's the information coming from. That's what I'm trying to say, that we need to, it's like when you open the television and you see the news from a big media outlet, you believe what they are saying because it's truth. And if you hear it, I don't know, in the street from whoever, then you need to check it and verify it. But it's true that today we live in a rush and it's quite difficult, and that's the work that we need to do from our side to really check and make sure that we give you clear information.
Thank you, Carlota. I'm very happy that you make me mention again my beloved youth survey. The youth survey, there is one from us, from the European Parliament, one Eurobarometer youth survey that was published this year, and another one from the Commission, which have a representative sample size of 1,000 per EU member state. So there you can really work with that data. It's the respondent surveyed were between 16 and 30 years old. So there you can really do whatever with the data because this is like you can do 1-2 crossings and it's gonna be still fine. For our standard surveys, you are right. Sometimes youth is, I mean, of course, is small because we have because it's small in population. We are not so many in Europe, and this is a representative sample of the whole population. So then we end up having sample sizes for youth only of 100, 200, which are fine to get just the first like the first crossings or the first so how many or which share of youngsters are in favor of the EU or not. But if you want to do a second crossing, there you have some problems of representativity, but this is what it is. So I recommend you and everyone here to use the youth survey, not only that survey, but that one especially if you want to research on youth, because there you have the representative sample.
Please, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ateş Altınordu. I'm a sociologist from Turkey, and thanks so much for this discussion. I took so many notes. My question is about, I mean, a lot of the discussion kind of revolved around the problem that, that mainstream channels, mainstream media, news media has difficulty reaching the youth, and sometimes there are lots of sources of misinformation, and, we need to make sure that the official, or as you said, or mainstream established media also finds ways to reach the youth. But I'm thinking about other contexts, such as Turkey, but also some other ones, such as Hungary and Poland, where what we might refer to as the mainstream media, the most well-established television stations or newspapers, have been captured by rather authoritarian governments. And therefore, we don't have that kind of resort, right? In Britain, you can say, oh, let's look at BBC to get our reliable news. In Turkey, if you look at TRT, you are going to get a lot of misinformation and disinformation, right? So, and so what are ways to break through that? Especially, I mean, Deutsche Welle works obviously through many international channels. I regularly follow Deutsche Welle in Turkish, but you need VPN to access it. The government has blocked access to it. Although Turkey is not part of the EU works a lot with Turkey and intervenes, has a lot of interactions, right, with Turkish politics and media and civil society. So what might be some of the ways in which we can overcome all of these problems that we talked about in settings where we cannot rely on mainstream or official media to be the arbiters of truth?
That's a very good point. Deutsche Welle, as an international broadcaster, has to deal with this on a regular basis. For example, our correspondents were thrown out of Russia, and our services in Russian are blocked. But still, we have more viewers and users nowadays than we have before they were thrown out, because people in Russia use VPN, they know how to use it. We have in Turkish also a channel called Plus 90, I don't know if you know it. It is constructed stories from Turkey, and it has over 1 million followers now in a fairly short time. It's very successful, even though we are banned in Turkey. So you have to be flexible. You have to find your ways, your channels, and so on, how to reach the audience, which makes complexity even more complex, because we have to think about this as well. But it is possible because people are clever and people want to have information. And I could give you other examples, Belarus and so on, where we reach an audience even though we are not allowed to reach the audience. But it is difficult, yeah? And the European Union is discussing now Voice of America and all the others now being cancelled by the Trump administration. What does it mean? For example, in Azerbaijan, that was a very important source. So how can Europe support that there are other voices as well, except for just the Russian voices or the Azerbaijani official voices?
I would just mention, at least for the EU member states, so that you mentioned Hungary and Poland, although in Poland there might be a change with the new government. But I would just mention conditionality and EU legislation to counter this mainstream media being captured by the government. And if we manage to link press freedom or media freedom to conditionality of EU funds, for example, as a main value of the EU, there we could try to protect the media landscape in those countries. But for Turkey, of course, a bit more difficult.
I think there was a question at the back.
If I may, my name is Avdi. I come from Epoka University in Tirana, Albania. I am a political scientist. I just want to raise a comment, which I would like also to test an opinion which I have on this issue, especially on the relationship between mainstream and non-mainstream media. Might it also be or is it a question to you, is it an issue of accessibility of people to the media, which now it seems non-mainstream media is dominating the mainstream media, or is it an issue of trust that people probably might have lost to some extent to the mainstream media as reflecting the trust of the mainstream politics? As this is quite related also to issue that when we speak of the independence of media, it's not so easy to speak of an absolute independence of media. Some are more, some are less. And I think an issue which media, even mainstream media, I think since the beginning they have not much given attention to is the value of being objective. And sometimes not fully being objective before the development of technology was easily manageable. There was no alternative. And now this is much more difficult because the development of new technology, it has opened the door of being not objective also to the non-stream media. I might be wrong, but this is my perception. And how to get out of it, how to bring back or how to develop a trust of people to the mainstream media. This is my question, my point, and my opinion. I would like to test if I'm right what I'm thinking. Thanks a lot.
I'm not very happy with the term mainstream media, which is used in political.
I just wanted to distinguish, for the purpose of knowing of which media I'm speaking about.
I would like more the term established media, if I may say so. But established media is under continuous attack by certain political groups in many countries, in Sweden, in Switzerland, in Germany, in France, and so on. And so nowadays, it is more difficult for us than it was, you're right, because before we were more accepted. So we have to explain ourselves, we have to be transparent with how do we form our information, what our journalists are doing, and we have to be on the ground. We shouldn't sit on our desk and write things, we should be on the ground. And I think that's important, but it's difficult for established media nowadays, more difficult than it used to be, and we made mistakes, for sure. We thought the things we are doing are always right, and we have to discuss also continuously if that's what we are doing, how we report, is this the right way, or how can we change things? So it is not easy nowadays to be part of a more established media, and that's why we work also a lot on other social media channels and so on, and try different ways to put out information and be as unbiased as possible, but nobody is 100% objective. That's impossible. But we try to have different sources, for example, for I principle, etc., to do the right things and be correct as much as that is possible.
I would like to jump here. Also, very interesting point. Here, I think we are talking again about affective polarization, which goes beyond the ideological polarization, and which builds a super identity. This super identity means that your group votes for one or the other party in the right or the left part of the political spectrum, but not only that your group has a cultural kind of identity. They consume some media and not the others. They consume some influencers and not the others, and so on and so forth. So it's not, in my view, that people or youth in this case don't trust established media. It's that they relate some of the established media to the other group, to the other supra-identity group, and then they distrust this media that is related to one political party, to, I don't know, the woke culture or whatever, or the right wing. It doesn't matter. In Spain, I don't know if you are very familiar to the Spanish media landscape, but there was a very good example of this. Two humorists of two different TV channels were related to one and the other and confronted because they were related to one super-identity group and the other to the other one. So this goes until this level of confrontation and political political polarization or affective polarization, that everything becomes part of one group or the other group or the other group. So yeah, it's not just a lack of trust in any media, but in some media that in the end is even if it's mainstream or established and very broad media, is going to be at the end related to one of the groups, because this is how polarization works.
Let me add that there are interests on playing that game to push the lack of trust in anything that sounds institutional. So the ones that we have been working there for years and years, we are part of this institutional landscape that some people, some groups want to undermine. So my recipe is to keep working hard, doing our job, which is giving the right news at the right time with an honest perspective and with the relevant things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes,
please go ahead.
Yes, sir. I will be very quick. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Francesco Spera from University of Salento, EU legal scholar, and yeah, I teach disinformation and the AI Act all around Europe. And what struck me is that no one knows when I teach in class. Of course, target is young people. EU versus disinfo. I think you're familiar with that, right? The question is, this program has been through Europe and funded since 2015 from external agency of the European Union, but no one knows it. I think what are how can we improve communications in this? I think very interesting and well thought program. So EU versus disinfo. And a quick reaction to Mr. Velasco on the you mentioned the conditionality mechanism. To link it to that, since I have studied, I read it very well, that conditionality mechanism case law on Hungary and Poland. I will say that I would rather use the Digital Service Act. I mean, I think, and what do you think about its effectiveness now that you launch, the Commission launch under Digital Service Act 10 investigation, especially on X. So will it be really this principle of what is illegal offline will be legal online? Will it be impactful for fighting disinformation? Because I think using that conditionality mechanism, reading that long sentence of 16th of February 2022, talking about EU identity, link it to Article 2 of the values, I think can depolarize a lot, because as the result of that sentence, that case law, I mean, in Poland something changed because it changed the government, but in Hungary I didn't see a lot of effectiveness on that. We can go into detail on talking about sentence on other seats. Thank you very much.
I agree. Nothing much to say. Sometimes it's true that the conditionality mechanism victimizes the government of Hungary in this case, and boosts them. So sometimes the right way to address this is through just conventional legislation. Yes.
Yes, please, over there.
Now? Okay. Sorry. I'm Josephine, and I'm a PhD student at the University of Messina and a journalist. I want to come back to the question of lack of trust and the problem of the transparency of method. My impression is that the crisis of journalism is quite linked to the crisis of scientific method in the traditional way. And before you said something like reality is reality, and I think that today is complex to say that there is a version of reality and that there is a correspondence of fact and opinion. We said before that depolarization was always present with propaganda and in the history. And so maybe is a question, of course. So I want to know your opinion. What about? I mean, I think that media have a responsibility in the construction of the reality, and I think that ideology form our construction of reality. And so, what about if I think that only men are capable to speak about some arguments or some topics, I will build a panel on TV just for men that speak about politics or stuff like this. So what about this necessity of wider the point of view and the different bodies in the public debate? And what are your experience and how, if you feel to address this topic and this issue, because sometimes the representation of reality is just for some bodies and some people. And so, what about how do you deal with these issues, and how do you communicate your method? Because of this lack of trust, sometimes is a lack of transparency, and so how do you deal with these two very, very big topics? Thank you very much.
Yeah, reality is perceived in a different ways, for sure. You know, we can talk about the same thing, or we see the same thing, but we perceive it in a different way, of course. Yeah, but you have to know, if I explain to you why do I see a gray ceiling and you see a red ceiling, I can explain to you and why I come to this conclusion. So what I mean is you have to make clear where you come from, what are your sources. And what we try to do is to analyze our content continuously and see, do we have enough sufficient different voices? Do we have enough women, for example? Often political debates, you have mostly men. Do we have enough female participants in a debate? Do we have people from who are handicapped or from LGBTQ community and so on? So we continuously analyze our data and see where there are holes where we need to improve, and we discuss it. We have feedback conferences and so on, you know. So to have different perspectives, and we always want multiple voices and different perspectives and explain where we come from. That sounds easier than it's been done, and it's not always, 100%, of course, but we try our best and we try to improve continuously. Not easy, and be transparent, and if people ask, we go into dialogue with the users. We explain, why did you have this person, and so on. Yeah, we thought we needed a voice, and so on and so on. So we explain ourselves. That's what we try.
think we have time for one more question. Please go ahead.
Hello. First of all, I would like to thank you all for being here and sharing your knowledge with us today. My name is Guillermo, and I'm a third-year student of journalism and film, television, and media studies in this university. And I have a question for the four of you that is more on the personal side, and it's what word of advice would you give to young Europeans, particularly young Spaniards, when it comes to navigate the current media landscape while maintaining also a level of trust in institutions, but also a sense of energy? Because personally, as a young person, sometimes it can feel overwhelming to fight back against disinformation, especially being a journalist student, when not only you can find that in the media and social media, but also sometimes people that are close to you, family members, neighbors, friends, also fall on that discourse. How can we balance the personal side, the personal effects of misinformation, while also maintaining the duty that we all have as European citizens of fighting back and protecting public debate?
You want to start, Leticia?
I mean, my only recommendation is to really go to different sources. I mean, as we have been doing since ever, go and check different media and sources to check the information. I mean, you never make an opinion just with one thing. As I said before, it can be about politics, but it can be about, I don't know, a diet, that if you read that you don't need to eat apples anymore in your life, or for example, milk, you don't just need to believe that you don't need to drink milk anymore in your life. So you need to go further, and you need to contrast the information, look for more information, read, and then take your own decision if you want to still drink milk or not. I mean, and this is with everything in your life. It's not only about politics, it's about everything. And now with social media, even more and more. So that's my recommendation.
From an institutional point of view, I would say that the burden of countering disinformation, fighting disinformation, should not be on you, and should be on us, and also on the media. So of course these recommendations work, and try to apply them, but the burden should not be on you, but rather on the other part of the landscape, on politicians, on media, on institutions.
I think you don't have to win. You know, with your family debates and so on, just explain yourself why you are of a different opinion, but you don't need to win. Just accept they have another opinion, explain yourself, and that's it. Just be aware you can't win. It's like in a relationship, you know. Okay, perceptions are differently. Explain yourself. Good.
Thank you.
Enough. I agree with that, Manuela. And be honest. I know this, I can share it with you. This I doubt, I don't know. And that's what we do. We know, we share, and if we don't, we try to find a solution. Different sources, and you know, that's always been the same.
Yeah.
So sorry for the questions that are missing. We are running out of time. I just want to thank these brilliant panelists, this engaged audience, for, I think, this rich and timely conversation. Let's go on and off the screen. Thank you.
Thank you.